Framing it as capitalism versus socialism is completely inaccurate, and it's why it frustrates me, even though I line up with them 90% of the time and would prefer most of their candidates to establishment Dems. I don't like that the DSA is leading the way for progressives because I think it confuses people. And I think most of them are confused. But it's not their fault for leading, it's just that nobody else stepped up for progressives. Bernie Sanders has been leading the way for some time now with no other real populist voices in the Democratic Party. I tend to line up more with Abdul El-Sayed, who is not a socialist. Now, in the past, I've generally framed it as socialism for needs and capitalism for wants in order to demonstrate that the need for both and how they can balance each other. But even that's off. Most of these politically active young people still have their political science courses top of mind. I know I did. But in the left-wing world, you see people lining up with these various political and economic ideologies like some kind of club. See, the term democratic socialist has been around for a long time. It was the opposition to Leninism, to Soviet-style communism. And the name and ideology was actually meant to solve the problem that I always talk about. That being that it's too susceptible to authoritarianism because it centralizes power. The democratic part is to avoid the centralization. I just still don't think it's enough. As we've seen, political parties can also seize power and be just as problematic. I've also just never liked the term because democracy is a political system and socialism is an economic system. And you can mix and match political and economic system. It's been done all over the world. Now, if you were saying that you are pro-democracy and socialist, I would understand that. But democratic socialism is not even the same as regular old socialism, so I think they might need updated branding. Also, in framing it as capitalism versus socialism, normal people tend to think that means free market versus government control. And while those words do have those elements, that's not actually the fight that we're having. The best possible form of capitalism is one where there is a maximum amount of competition. It keeps markets fluid so people can enter easily, it keeps prices low, and it keeps service and quality high. This is not at all the system that we have anymore. Do you have more than one hardware store in your town or more than 2 grocery store options? We are living under what I would call oligarchical corporate socialism. And in most markets, most want-based markets, the solution to combat this is antitrust or actual well-functioning capitalism. Adam Smith, the godfather of capitalism, made this point central to his arguments. The 2 biggest threats to capitalism are fraud and monopolization. We have a government that both financially supports and drives out the competition for big corporations. And this is what the Republican Party has been for since Nixon. They've just been trying to mask it. They want markets with only 2 or 3 big companies because to them, that makes things more stable and efficient for investors. Because in this country, they matter more than you. This is called the University of Chicago School of Thought, and it currently runs our Supreme Court. Now, what capitalism is not great for, again, are needs. And the reason for that is very simple: supply and demand. For human needs, there is no limit on demand. So companies can easily exploit like they've done throughout history. The government is the one that should be running those things, like with healthcare. That being said, the private sector usually gets things done more quickly. And so for things like food and housing, there might be a middle ground. But they should still be rights. This is the kind of ideology, again, that of Abdul El-Sayed, that I think that you can get the vast majority of Americans to support. But it's an ideology that gets tainted by these tribes, the Democratic Party and the DSA. It needs to live outside of these things, which is why I'm an independent. Now, I know in most states it's not really possible, so I totally understand, but you still don't really need the label. You're just using the party to get elected, which is all they were ever meant to be to begin with. You don't have to be just like Hassan Piker, although I got no hate for the guy, in order to be a progressive. So let's cut out the noise and just fight for these things.